Before we get today's Texas Tech Keys to the Game video started, be sure to head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your new favorite Texas Tech shirt and save 15% when you use the code BACK12. Texas Tech men's basketball is right around the corner. Get a throwback Texas Tech men's basketball shirt. You can also get the tortilla toss, the three-quarter sleeve for baseball, hoodies, and much more. Use the code BACK12 and save 15% on your new favorite Texas Tech shirt over on homefieldapparel.com. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And in today's video, we'll discuss just that. The three keys to the game for the Red Raiders to beat the Kansas State Wildcats, a team that they have had trouble with for really the past, decade. Losing 7 straight have the Red Raiders. Here are the three keys to the game, in my opinion. But before we jump into that, I want to hear from you guys in terms of just an overall score prediction. Let me know who you got in this one by leaving your score prediction on the pinned comment down below. Again, this is a big one for the Red Raiders. They're looking to go 3-1 in conference play for the first time since 2018. And, well, without further ado, let's jump into key number 1 for this matchup during spooky season, I might add, out in the 806. All right, creativity in the run game. What do I mean by that? They're not going to get away from Tahj Brooks, right? Why would they? We're talking about the guy that is fifth in the FBS, okay? When we're talking about most rushing yards this season, right? He is the centerpiece of this offense, but you got to remember this. Kansas State has the best run defense in the Big 12, right? They only allowed 93.4 rushing yards per game. For reference, Tahj Brooks is averaging over 100 by himself. Right? Something has to give here. Do I think Kansas State probably allows Texas Tech to get over the century mark running the football? Yes, but I don't know how pretty it's going to be. So this is what I mean when I say creativity in the run game. You have to pass a little bit in order to get the run game flowing, right? You got to use the RPOs. You got to use play action. So this may be a time where we see Morton come out in this one, okay? Because listen, Tahj will get his touches. There's no doubt about that in my mind, but maybe not in the conventional way you're thinking, okay? I think there's going to be more times than not where you see Tahj Brooks maybe catch 4 or 5 passes in this game and really be an outlet for Bear Morton just to get Tahj more touches other than just strictly running the football, right? Because I think when it's all said and done, every game from here on out that Tahj Brooks plays in, he has to at least get 20 touches, right? Whatever that is, whether that's 15 carries, 5 catches, so on and so forth, right? He has to get that minimum, even though I'd probably rather see him in that 23 to 27 range. But it takes a toll on you, right? So I think there's got to be a creativity aspect in this. Maybe even run him out in motion into the flat and run a screen that way. Whatever it may be, you have to be creative when it comes to the run game. And remember, in my opinion, I think that the screen game is basically a byproduct of the run game. That's a run play, in my opinion, right? So you could use Tahj in that regard as well. I'm interested to see what Zach Kittley does because, again, Tahj is going to get his touches. It just may not be conventional, right? And that's the thing you have to do against Kansas State because you go look at what they've done to some pretty solid teams when it comes to running the football, right? UCF put up 200-plus yards on Baylor. They didn't do really anything against Kansas State in meaningful time, right? So you're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to really get creative if you're Zach Kittley. But I want to ask you guys this before we get into key number 2. You tell me Tahj Brooks will rush for blank amount of yards against K-State in week 7. You going over the 106 that he's averaging this year, which is crazy to think about. Really a truly historic pace for Tahj Brooks. Let me know down in the comments how many rushing yards you have Tahj Brooks running for against the Wildcats on Saturday night during spooky season in Jones AT&T Stadium. All right, let's get to key number 2. Take 3 University has to show up again. Will Howard has thrown 7 interceptions on the year. Can arguably the best position group that the Red Raiders have, either side of the football, right? And the DBs and safeties show up and increase that total. Okay, on the year, the Red Raiders have 5 INTs. Nothing crazy, less than 1 per game. Malik Dunlap has 3 of those by himself, right? We will talk about how they can create this as a whole from the defensive perspective with key number 3, but this is pivotal in order for Texas Tech to win, right? 3 turnovers almost feels like a must, in my opinion. And when you look at what Will Howard did last weekend in Stillwater on Friday night against Oklahoma State, he threw 3 picks, right? He now leads the Big 12 Conference in INTs on the season with the previously mentioned 7. Listen, I don't expect him to throw that many again, right? But I do think 2 is possible because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, and really since we started previewing Texas Tech in general, I think that this Texas Tech secondary is the best position group that they have. It's loaded in terms of experience, snaps played, depth, and really just impactful guys, right? Like you look at what Texas Tech has. You got Rabbit, Williams, Dunlap. You got Owens back there. You got Brendan Jordan, CJ Baskerville, and multiple other guys out there making meaningful plays for the Red Raiders. I think they're going to have to do that against Will Howard again, and I think they will. And Will Howard has not been great on the road this year, less than a 55% completion percentage. And oh, by the way, he's thrown 4 picks on the road, and as I mentioned, 3 on the road last week in Stillwater. So I'll ask you guys this. Just give me a number. The Texas Tech defense will create blank turnovers against Kansas State on Saturday night at Jones AT&T Stadium. Again, Will Howard, 7 INTs on the year. 3 of them came last week against the Fighting Mike Gundys and Oklahoma State Cowboys there in Stillwater. Can Tim DeRuyter's defense stir some stuff up, maybe on the defensive line by setting the edge? That's a little preview and a little tease right there. Actually, forget that. Let's just go straight into it. Key to the game, number trace for the Red Raiders in this one. You've got to set the edge defensively, right? And I think Texas Tech over the past 6 quarters have done that at an elite rate. Now, let's preface by saying this. You played Houston and Baylor. Those 2 teams are probably going to finish near the bottom, if not the bottom, of the Big 12 when talking about Houston, right? Houston, it would not shock me if they don't win, but maybe 1 conference game this year, right? Baylor is just in a free fall, it feels like, after their win at UCF and what they did against Texas Tech. Outside of 1 quarter played in the past 12, they really haven't been that great if you look at the Bears, right? So Texas Tech, when it comes down to it, they held Baylor to 0.6 yards per carry. 0.6, 2 feet for those math wizards out there, right? Can they do that, though, against a better Kansas State offensive line, right? Kansas State offensive line is arguably the best one in the conference, up there with the likes of Oklahoma, Texas. Oklahoma and Texas probably have better, but Kansas State is probably right there in the 3 position, right? So it all starts with Steve Linton and Miles Cole, right? I'm not saying they have to go out and get 3 sacks like Steve Linton did against Baylor. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I don't even know if that's needed. Obviously, it would be much obliged, right? Like everybody would love to see that. But I think what really needs to happen here is set the edge, force Will Howard to step up in the pocket and go towards guys like Tony Bradford, Jalen Hutchins, Quincy Ledet, right? Like those big bodies that Texas Tech has in the middle of that defensive line. If you can force Will Howard to go up and move forward in the pocket and really just circle around him, he's shown that he'll throw picks, right? He'll throw in the tight windows. And with that secondary you've got, we talked about it earlier in key number 2 to the game. Can this Texas Tech secondary turn him over? They can if they set the edge. But also in the run game, right? DJ Giddens is a really good running back, okay, for the Wildcats. If you can force him to run in between the tackles, right, and that's no easy task, right? I talked about it in the preview video if you haven't watched that already, right? If you can force the Wildcats to run between the tackles and the A, B, and C gaps, I think Texas Tech chances of really slowing down and mitigating that Wildcat run game increase exponentially, right? Because you get guys like Josiah Pierre, Ben Roberts, Bryce Ramirez could be back this week, Joey McGuire said, right? And Malik Dingle. You can just move them downhill, right? Just straight into those gaps, and they know where to look. They don't have to look as far outside, and they can be centered, which allows them to be more aggressive and really use their speed to their advantage, right? So I think that that's going to be a priority for Texas Tech, and I think it's one of those things where, again, if Texas Tech can do that, right, and force the edge to be set by them and not allow Will Howard to escape and create maybe a 70-yard run like he did against Oklahoma State and really have that spy there for the run game, not only with the running backs as well as Will Howard, the quarterback, I think Texas Tech's chances of winning really increase. One more time, let's look at the odds real quick again, and I got my prediction down there as well. Texas Tech is 1-point favorite with the total over-under set at 56.5. I have the Red Raiders winning 33-26, covering the over and, well, the spread as well. But I want to hear from you guys one more time. Who you got? Leave your score prediction for Kansas State at Texas Tech on the pinned comment down below. And if I didn't mention the key to the game in your opinion, let me know down in the comments below. One more time, I am RC Maxfield reminding you, if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long and join one of the most engaging communities for Texas Tech sports here on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.